Please take your seats. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, friends and associates, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. On behalf of the Center for China and Globalization, please allow me to extend our warmest welcome to all of you for coming over to participate in this roundtable. Please also allow me to acknowledge the presence of more than 60 ambassadors, senior diplomats, and friends from the Beijing's diplomatic circles. The names are alphabetically by country. We are very honored and pleased to have His Excellency Mr. Rahmatullah M. Osman, Ambassador of African Union to China. His Excellency Javed Ahmad Qaim, Ambassador of Afghanistan. His Excellency João Santos Neto, Ambassador of the Republic of Angola. His Excellency Akham Zainali, Ambassador of Azerbaijan. His Excellency Simon P. Adelfland, Ambassador of the Republic of Benin. His Excellency Mr. Martin Mabazumutima, Ambassador of Burundi. Her Excellency Tanya S.Y. Romando, Ambassador of the Republic of Cabo Verde. His Excellency Martin Mabana, Ambassador of the Republic of Cameroon, and also Dean of the African Ambassadors Groups. His Excellency Medini Mujumbi, Ambassador of the Republic of Chad. His Excellency Mohammed El-Badri, Ambassador of the Arab Republic of Egypt. His Excellency Andres Anga, Ambassador of Estonia. His Excellency Sahamadi Tor, Ambassador of the Republic of Guinea. His Excellency Masane Yuku Kint, Ambassador of the Republic of the Gambia. Her Excellency Sarah Saram, Ambassador of the Republic of Kenya. His Excellency Santane Licho Daniel, Ambassador of Kingdom Lesotho. His Excellency W. M. Thomas, Ambassador of the Republic of Liberia. His Excellency Ahmad M. A. Tabali, Ambassador of the State of Libya. His Excellency Jean-Louis Herbasson Hichard, Ambassador of the Republic of Madagascar. His Excellency Charles E. Namandoe, Ambassador of the Republic of Malawi. His Excellency Didier Dako, Ambassador of the Republic of Mali. His Excellency Mr. Wang Yanchong Mahiroland Alan, Ambassador of the Republic of Mauritius. Her Excellency Maria Gustava, Ambassador of the Republic of Mozambique. Her Excellency Baba Hamad Jida, Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. His Excellency James Kimonyo, Ambassador of the Republic of Rwanda. Her Excellency Isabel Domingos, Ambassador of the Democratic Republic of São Tomé and Príncipe. His Excellency Ernest M. Domahina, Ambassador of the Republic of Sierra Leone. His Excellency Mabewa And we are also very honored and pleased to have Mr. Daoudi Biti, Chargé d'Affaires as interim from Embassy of the Burkina Faso. Mr. Mohamed Mobe, Chargé d'Affaires as interim Embassy of the Union of the Cosmos. Mr. Mumbi Kaimbe Valentin, Chargé d'Affaires, Embassy of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Mr. Omar Idris Fahar, Chargé d'Affaires as interim from Embassy of Djibouti. Mr. Chek Yeha Katiria, Chargé d'Affaires from Embassy of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. Ms. Deborah, Chargé d'Affaires, Embassy of the Republic of South Africa. Mr. Bina, Chargé d'Affaires from Embassy of the Republic of Togo. And also, we're welcoming Ms. Jeanette Chatham Teshom Juru, Deputy Chief of Mission from Embassy of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Mr. Tom Neskog, Deputy Chief of Mission from Embassy of Norway. We are also very pleased to have Mr. David Pipnashvili, Minister Counselor from Embassy of Georgia, Embassy of Australia. And we are also very honored to have representatives from countries from Niger, Guinea-Bissau, Gabon, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Republic of Congo, Sudan, Zambia, and Morocco. And also very happy to see our friends from the embassies of the United States, Italy, Denmark, France, Austria, Portugal. And thank you all for coming, and thank you all for bearing with me on my pronunciation. Next, please allow me to introduce Master of Ceremony today, President and Senior Fellow, Center for China and Globalization.
Thank you, Dr. Tan. That has been a wonderful job. Your Excellencies, dear friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to CCG Roundtable. We are so humbled with so many distinguished guests today to join us this afternoon during the holiday season. I would like to really thank you all of you to spending time with us. We are so fortunate to have speakers today to cover China 14th five-year plan and the Africa Continental Free Trade Area project. Following that, we will have two discussion sessions for our friends to raise your questions or seek further clarifications. And we are so delightful to have also three Chinese business executives to share their case studies about doing business in Africa region. For the two featured speakers, we are so honored to have Dr. Zhu Ming, which is a very well-known business executive who was former managing director with the International Management Fund and also vice president with the China People's Bank of China. And Dr. Zhu Ming graduated from Fudan in economics, also obtained his PhD from Johns Hopkins. And all this, another featured speaker is Dr. Francis, who is the head of trade and promotion from African Union. This roundtable would not be possible if we do not have great leaders to share their visions in promoting global trade and international collaboration. Without any further ado, I would like to invite our co-organizers, Dr. Hui Yao Wan, President of CCG, Counselor for China State Council, Vice Chairman of China Association for International Economic Cooperation in the Ministry of Commerce. Without further ado, let's invite Dr. Wan to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Liu, and your honorable excellencies and distinguished guests, and also our friends from media and also from all circles in Beijing. Good afternoon. So first, I would like to thank the permanent mission of African Union, the Office of African Ambassador Group, and also Dr. Zhu Ming, and of course the Center for China and Globalization for co-organizing this event and also inviting the guest speakers. So fortunately today we are actually, I think in Beijing we'll be able to gather here. I think that that shows the progress of how China has contained the coronavirus. So it's really thanks for all of you. So today the Ambassador Roundtable will focus on the policies that related to the deep opening up of China, but particularly the 14th five-year plan that we actually, the central government just had the planning to pass that. resolution to really start this process. So also we're going to talk about the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is a great area that I think that China-African cooperation will be really very important for us to come in the years ahead. And also this agreement has just passed, I think last weekend, and actually will be effective on January 1st of next year. So ambassadors, consulars, and embassy representatives of more than 60 countries, and also from officials from local municipalities and also relevant departments, we'll share and also discuss the prospect for multilateral economic cooperation and cross-border free trade and investment. So the roundtable is actually of great importance given the international situation. And despite the encouraging news that the vaccine may be on the way, and that COVID-19 actually will have profound lasting impact on the international environment and for many years to come. So it actually has increased economic uncertainty and also economic frictions, while highlighting the shortcomings of the global governance that actually we hope that we're going to have a discuss among our distinguished excellencies and guests actually this afternoon. So how we can really get better out of this and how the international collaboration can really work out on this situation, I think it's really the theme with China's 14 years, 5 years plan, and also of course the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. So China's 14th 5 years plan propose actually to make full use of both domestic and international markets and resources, and to actively promote the coordinated development of import-export, foreign investment, and outbound investment. So China's dual circulation strategy actually also emphasized by this 14th 5 years plan, promise greater openness and integration with global markets. So actually, one of the latest development that actually I think is probably worth mentioning and also related to the free trade agreement. Why is that on November 20th, just a week, just about the AfCFTA, a week before November 20th, AfCFTA actually was signed. It was really a big signing ceremony that has taken place among the 15 leaders of ASEAN, China, Japan, Korea, Australia, and New Zealand. So the AfCFTA agreement is really a breakthrough for the regional cooperation of 15 Asian Pacific countries, signed the biggest free trade deal in the history of mankind, probably. And that really will give a new boost of the globalization and regional integration, and actually will accelerate the free trade development for this part of the world. So we're very glad to see the African Free Trade Agreement is also being concluded as well. Right after that, actually on November 20th, as I was saying, that actually President Xi also announced at the APEC summit that China would be interested taking a positive attitude towards joining the CPTPP. So that this statement by President Xi at 27th Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Leaders Summit is really a further demonstration of China's commitment to openness and also to really conduct more free trade development for China and this part of the world. So as actually China, the signing of AfCFTA is not only a landmark achievement of East Asian regional cooperation, but also a victory for multilateralism and free trade. So by reducing tariff and the non-tariff barriers, AfCFTA will be a catalyst for Asian integration and helps solidify China's position in the heart of the regional economy at a time when the trade friction and protectionism on the horizon elsewhere. So compared with AfCFTA, the comprehensive and progressive agreement for the Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP, is a higher standard of FTA with a higher entry threshold. Partnership in a higher and standard FTA with higher standards is actually have a better objective to work for. So the agreement provides greater access to service sectors, investment protections, and guarantees, and also more chances for government procurement, facilitate framework for the digital economy, and intellectual property protection. So I think that this is really a great news that I think that combined with our theme today, because I think that we're talking about 14th five-year plan. I think Dr. Zhu will give a very detailed, comprehensive speech on that. We'll talk about African free trade, African continental free trade area, which is a landmark for over 50 African countries to be in one free trade area, which is significant of this free trade agreement. But also with the ASEP, that the Asian, ASEAN, and China, and Japan, and Australia, and New Zealand just concluded, and also with CPTPP. So I think that we are seeing the free trade, the multilateralism is thriving in Asia and in Africa, and across Pacific. So this is really great news. I think that will be serve as a reboot of the globalization, of the regionalization. And then that's exactly the meeting, I think, of this afternoon, China's new 5 years plan that emphasizes more on the openness and also a free trade agreement. That is really very important for the economy, the development of our global economy. So I think that this is really important, and I would like to really appreciate all your excellencies, all the representatives of different countries, and we actually have this over 60 countries represented here. We have many also media and international organizations, think tanks also represented here as well. So we are very pleased that CCG could organize the event, and we appreciate all your coming. And I think this is going to serve as a very good for our roundtables later, that we're going to hear many good insights, many good comments from you. And we really want to, as a CCG, to really digest and make enough policy recommendation out of this. So I think that I will just briefly stop here, and I want to once again thank all of you for coming and appreciate your presence and your insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Wan, for a very insightful speech. Let me invite His Excellency Ambassador Mupala, the Ambassador of Cameroon to China, Dean of African Ambassador Group, to the podium.
Dear colleague ambassadors, dear Mr. Wang Huaiyou, President of the Center for China and Globalization, distinguished participants, all protocol duly respected, I am honored and most privileged to address you today in my capacity as Dean of the African Ambassadors Group in Beijing. I would like to express my satisfaction at the holding of this roundtable, which has been dedicated to exchanging views and holding seminar discussions on the African continental free trade area and China's 40th five-year plan. The African Ambassadors Group is proud of this emerging partnership with the Center for China and Globalization, which is clearly distinguishing itself as one of the renowned non-governmental think tanks and major platform where various stakeholders in China can equally imprint their marks and express their views on German thematic issues. Therefore, I'm highly optimistic that this maiden discussion on China and the African Continental Free Trade Area would certainly serve as a pace setter for other similar discussions in the future. It would certainly enhance mutual understanding and the sharing of vital economic information between both sides, as well as consolidate and further strengthen the excellent ties that exist between Africa and China. Therefore, my special thanks go to the Center for China and Globalization, CCG, and the African Union Office in Beijing and the joint effort in realizing this highly laudable initiative. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as you may be aware, one of the age-old and highly cherished aspirations of the founding father of the Organization of African Unity, which is today the African Union, has always been, inter alia, the promotion and fostering of regional integration in Africa, mutual friendship between states, peace and stability, good governance, and the enhancement of Africa's views in global forums. Similarly, the ultimate goal of African leaders and their peoples has always been the socio-economic development of their continent through the integration of the member states of the African Union. In this regard, an impressive number of have been hatched and experimented with varying results. Most of those integrative initiatives have often targeted specific strategic sectors such as agriculture, trade, transport, energy, and mining. Prominent amongst these initiatives include the following: the Comprehensive African Agricultural Development Program, the Program for Infrastructural Development in Africa, the African Mining Vision, Science, Technology, Innovation Strategy for Africa, boosting intra-African trade, accelerated industrial development for Africa, the new Partnership for Africa's Development, NIPAD, which was renamed the African Union Development Agency, and the regional economic communities. Those noble aspirations are on track and are still being pursued with the same vigor by our head of state, who in 2015 harmonized them in a single, coherent and strategic document dubbed Agenda 2063. Under that initiative, the first 10 years have been dedicated for the priority sector highlighted above. The African Continental Free Trade Zone area is obviously one of the key enablers of Agenda 2063. Though other speakers would certainly dwell on that theme, nevertheless, permit me to underscore that the African Free Trade Area would represent a window of opportunities for African countries to promote intra-African trade, diversify and structurally transform the continent's economy, and pursue important socio-economic development goals. However, the harmonization of national priorities to achieve the goals of free trade would require our resolve, concerted effort, as well as viable and resilient partnerships. In this regard, the excellent and fruitful relationship that exists between China and Africa becomes highly crucial. Therefore, both sides must seek to further explore and mobilize additional resources through existing cooperation frameworks such as the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, FOCAC, and the Belt and Road Initiative. Equally, there is a need to enhance synergy between the Chinese and the African development approaches. This is critical to strengthening mutual trust at all levels and in ensuring a win-win cooperation. Public-private partnerships could set the pace for coordinated action. This is why African countries and stakeholders in China would be required to play a key role in articulating the implementation of China-Africa development plans and in building the necessary partnerships. I wish to conclude by underscoring that the COVID-19 pandemic, which is impacting negatively our economies, has significantly delayed the execution of the free trade area. Nevertheless, I strongly believe that discussions such as this one would be pivotal in realigning our approaches and strategies for the post-COVID-19 recovery agenda. Such an agenda must necessarily focus on the key priorities of the existing development plan between the two sides. I'm looking forward to having fruitful discussions on this very important issue, as well as wish full success to this roundtable discussion. I equally wish to commend all the different stakeholders whose various efforts have contributed in making it a success. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Ambassador. Let's warmly invite His Excellency Ambassador Osman, Permanent Representative of AU to China, to give us a speech. Thank you.
Ambassadors and representatives of diplomatic missions. Your Excellency, Dr. Wang, President of the Center for China and Globalization, Counselor of China's State Council, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to welcome your Excellencies to this roundtable dedicated to the African Free Trade Area and the China's 14th five-year plan discussions. Your presence at this meeting in such large number testifies the strong interest you have on the subject of our discussion today. Allow me also to join the Dean of the African Group, His Excellency the Ambassador of Cameroon, to express our appreciation to the Center for China and Globalization for accepting to embark in this partnership with the African Union and the African Group of Ambassadors in Beijing to host this event, and of course, for the valuable logistic support accorded to us. We truly hope that this is only the beginning of a long partnership that will continue to create similar opportunities. I also wish to recognize the presence of non-African ambassadors and diplomatic missions, Chinese officials, and the private sector representatives. Your presence here today means a great deal to us. We really appreciate and welcome your contributions. This roundtable comes at a very timely moment. Last Saturday, the African Union held its 13th extraordinary session of the African Continental Free Trade Area at the level of head of state, where the Assembly adopted the declaration and the commencement of trading as scheduled for the 1st of January 2021. This testifies that the Africa Free Trade Area is now a reality, and all these steps undertaken shows the determination of African Union member states to quickly achieve the economic integration of the continent. Equally important is that China's moves towards the first centennial goal of building a prosperous society in all respects, and the upcoming of the 14th five-year plan, 21-25, for national economic and social development has drawn domestic and international attention, since it will lay the foundation for China to step into an era of a great modern country. It is against this background that we proposed to hold this first roundtable, which provides opportunity for engaging discussions on ways and means to increase coordination and developing synergies between China and Africa, in particular on the free trade area and socio-economic development plans. I'm therefore confident that our discussions today will contribute to an impactful way towards our common understanding and collectively and bilaterally actions aimed at strengthening the cooperation and improve the implementation of our cooperation plans. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Ambassador Osman. Now we would like to start our first feature presentation, highlights of China 14th Five-Year Plan by Dr. Zhu Ming, Chairman of National Institute of Financial Research at the Tsinghua University, former Vice President of the People's Bank of China, former Deputy Managing Director of International Monetary Fund. Dr. Zhu.
Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, a great honor and privileges for me to be here to share some of my thoughts and my observations about China's 14th Five-Year Plan. And also, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Huiyao Wang for his kind invitation and introduction and for me. But before I say anything, I'm afraid I may disappoint Dr. Wang, because in his remark, he said, I mean, Drew will give a detailed and comprehensive review about China's 14th Five-Year Plan. Well, it's such a big plan. I give the time limitation. I don't think I can do that, because that would take at least 3 days, and if not 3 weeks. And also, the plan is still in work in progress, right? And still in the review process. And so I'm afraid I cannot do all the details, but I would like to point out the few key issues from my personal positions, and also from my personal understandings about the 14th Five-Year Plan, because this is such important issue for China, and also I will see have a huge impact on the global economy as well. I will focus on my comments in 3 basic areas. The first issue is understanding the big strategic or fundamental change in China in world at this particular moment. Understand the fundamental change, I think, is the most important thing. The second is then how does China respond to those fundamental challenges, which reflect in the 14th Five-Year Plan. And the third, when China's own 14th Five-Year Plan, China remained the opening up policies and working with all the countries in the world to form the partner to promote the global governance and the shared prosperity. So those are the three. So what is China's the open policy in the next 5 years as well? So those are the three key areas I would like to emphasize in roughly my 20 to 25 minutes and brief this afternoon. The first, I think it's important to understand some fundamental change or challenges China and the whole world facing today, which is the base or background for us to drive to China's 14 5-year plan. There are many issues. I would like to highlight three. The first issue is China domestically moving from middle income status to roughly $10,000 per capita GDP to 12,500 high income categories, which is a big issue because historically and international experience tell us when a country moving from middle income to high income levels, the country will experience a huge structure change and need a policy to reflect those fundamental and deep structure change as well. The second, the big fundamental change that China facing is geopolitical risk increase and international political ecosystem change quite a bit. So how China responds to that, ensure the sustainability and the stable domestic economic development is also a big issue. The third also big challenge China facing is aging. Demographic change, it really played a big role in our thinking about our futures. So let's start this first issue among those three. This year, even with growth slowdown quite a bit, China's per capita GDP will first time reach $10,000 per capita GDP, which put China in really the edge, leading away from middle income level toward high income level categories, which is currently defined by the World Bank in the United States, UN and others, which is $12,500 per capita GDP. It is not an easy number transformation. We reviewed the past experience and international experience. We found this is a typical challenge threshold for many, many developing countries, moving from that level into the high income levels. We found some countries like South Korea successfully moving from 10,000 per capita GDP, then high to 20,000, even 30,000. But some other countries do not. For example, Brazil, Mexico, for example, Malaysia in Asia. 30 years ago, those countries have a per capita GDP around $10,000 already. Today, after 30 years, their per capita GDP is still more or less around $10,000. It's very interesting, before the $10,000, most of the developing countries be able to manage it through, say, from $3,000 per capita GDP to $10,000 per capita. Usually it takes 16 to 18 years. Most of the countries can manage that. The point is around $10,000 to pass divergence, which is called middle income trap. We did a lot of studies. We do the comparisons. We try to find what lessons we can learn, why things happen that way. There are many things. Economic structure change is a big issue in this critical moment. And the agile and effective macro policy management is also very important issues. Financial sector have to follow to change to meet the new challenges, and income distribution become ever important. And the key issues in this transformation period, productivity becomes the key drive force. The investment-driven, resource-driven growth model. It is the productivity-driven. So when we're moving from today's $10,000 per capita GDP, up forward to 12,500 high income level, we have to think about how can China cope with these big challenges and moving forward in the futures. We do see the fundamentals economic structure change. For example, China will moving more from more manufacturing industry sector to the service sector. China's manufacturing industry peaked in 2013, and in the past 7 years, dropped in GDP shares roughly 6 percentage points. We expect to see service sector will pick up another 3-4 percentage points in the next 5 to 8 years, and continue manufacturing will shrink. When you move to service sector, and also we see more SME will pick up. And then we see the capital intensive strategy may not work in this particular phase, and resource intensive, of course, and will not work, particularly when China don't have the labor bonus. So those things we have to take into the considerations when we form the China's 14th Five-Year Plan. The second issue is the dramatic increase in geopolitical risk. When US particularly leave the table on WTO negotiations, on Paris climate change agreements, on WHO, on a few other issues, when anti-globalization in some degree, some areas, and also becomes such a big noise, everyone in this world have to think carefully what world will move into in the next, say, 10, 20, 30 years. What will be the global economic governance we can see, and how can we maintain a sustainable and also stable economic development within that particular, particularly when decoupling become one political buzzword in the international community, which also cause our concerns because China is such an open, globalized economy. Trade used to account a big share, but not only trade, but also capital flow, goods flow, human flow, all linked with the whole world. If decoupling happens, what will be the picture? What will be the solution? We don't hope this will happen. We'll have to think about that carefully. So I think that's also a big change. The third challenge I would like to mention is aging. Today, China have 250 million people over age 60. China roughly have 10% of people over age 65 now. China moving to the aging path quite fast. With this study, we see in 2050, although it sounds like a pretty far away, but it's really not that far. The total population in China probably will lose roughly 33 million, which is not a big number, but really demographic will be quite big. Compared with 2050 to today, we found the net increased the cohort of a population only happen in the 60 years cohorts, 70 years old cohorts, and 80 years cohort. That means only in the aged people group will have a population net increase from every cohort, roughly from 60 to 7 million to 80 to 90 million. Sometimes it's 100 million as well. But on the other side, the other whole cohorts around the 50 age 50, age 40, 30, 20, even 10, we all lose populations. So that is a big issue for us today to think about what will be the futures. The labor supply obviously is a big issue. The social welfare systems, security systems, healthcare systems, and how can we build more livable conditions, how things in the communities and the cities and the highways, the parks, to suit this more aged population in the futures. And how we see the saving rate may change, for example, and how demand structure will change, which will impact on the supply structure change. Because aged people consume less physical goods, durable goods as well. And they serve more, they need more service. So though the aging will have a huge impact on the economic structure, demand side, the supply side, so also on the social policy, on the city, township, community design as well. So those are the three, I would say, there are quite a few others, but I would like to emphasize those three key issues we see as a major challenge we're facing today and also in the next 10 to 30 years. So how China responds to those challenges? So the 14th five-year plan have to take those challenges into the considerations. I would like to take this opportunity to mention a few key features in this 14th five-year plan. China have 5 years plan since late 50s. This is the 14th, which is just one more. But it's different because I mentioned three fundamental challenges China facing today. So there are a few things. First issues, this plan will not focus on high growth, not quantitative growth, rather than high quality growth. When we don't have the labor bonus, we don't have a sort of unlimited labor supplies, the capital intensive and export intensive, material intensive growth model no longer work. We need to look into more growth from productivity growth, which is a big issue and also a big challenge. For example, our study found that in China, service sector in average, roughly 30% of productivity lower than manufacturing. When China continue moving to service sector oriented economy, improve the service sector productivity become the key challenge. So the first issues we really emphasize on the quality. The quality is much more balanced. I will mention that, including the green, including the sustainability, including the people's social welfare, and all those issues. The second feature for this plan is a people-centric. We understand that we move into these high-income categories. The people's happiness, people's well-being become more important. And also people's happiness and well-being become more fundamental drive for economic growth in the future, which is the one big lesson we learn from many countries in the past, and particularly for the countries who pass or who fail so-called middle income track. That means many things. Further issues, we target people's income growth is higher and stronger than GDP growth, which is easy to say, but not easy to do. For example, build the social security system, a meaningful security system cover all the Chinese citizens become more important. Broadly, we have 1 billion people under cover of the Medicare system today, although still relatively low level in some parts, it's still different. We want to expand to the whole countries to cover everyone in China. Environmental protection also become important because people want to have fresh air and fresh water. And also new urban designing, the new community, the parks, the education facilities, all those things make people more happier. I think it becomes a key issue. The financial sector also have to change to meet the challenge that people will have more wealth, more money, so have to manage their wealth well and make sure that they have money to spend in their futures. In the past 10 years, China's middle class increased from roughly 100 million to 400 million today, and China middle class roughly have more than 45 trillion wealth now today. We expect in 10 years once again, and this number can double again. So the whole financial sector have to change as well. So the people-centric and make sure people's happy, people's welfare increase is also a very important issue. The third issue is to forming a new strategy for sustainable growth and also to dealing with the huge uncertainty in international political ecosystem, geopolitical risk increasing. We have a dual circulation strategy. The dual circulation strategy means fundamentally we want to make sure the domestic economy is circulating well, which is easy to say, but not. 40 years ago, since China started economic reform and opening policies, Chinese economy is really integrated with the whole world. And export import is really a big issue. China's net export used to have more than 10% of GDP in 2007, around that time, peaked. Last year, less than 1%. This year could be a little bit of higher because demand for PPE and the personal electronic things increasing from China. But overall, domestic consumption become main drivers for China's economic growth today and in the future. That's clear and for sure. But the circulation, the policy, the supply chain, not necessarily runs smoothly in China. For example, China imports 340 billion chips every year from international market, but China also exports 100 billion. I'm sorry, 340 billion, yeah. Also import 100 billion chips, export 100 billion chips to the world. But this part never talk to each other because it's driven by market. It's a global resource allocation. So many things happen that way. So on the supply chain, repositioning, relocation, so we have to think about how can we make sure the domestic supply chain and domestic production can effectively link to each other and make sure we have a stable base. But this does not mean it's an isolated domestic production. So there's only one circle. So there's another circle, it's an international circle, circulations. So the domestic circulation and the international circulation will working together because it's become ever clear China need international cooperation and China need many things from international market, resource, technologies, and the talents on the capital flows and the managerial skill. There's also, so we learned in the past 14 years, China imported a lot from international market, and China will continue working with the whole world on those basic input facts as well. And China also needs an international market to export Chinese market. And the most important thing, the interaction between the domestic market and the international market will play a very important role to stimulate and to push China's technology advancing and upgrading and the product move into the value chain. So in that sense, the international circulation is also important. China will continue to have open door policy, receive the foreign capital, foreign service, and continue to export and exchange with different things, with the things that China have a great advantages, and import things the other country have a great advantage. So we call the dual circulation on the strategy. We expect to see we will gain quite a lot of efficiency from carefully managing this dual efficiency circulation. And particularly when we run through the domestic circulation, we found there's a lot of space we can improve the efficiency. So this is the third issues in this plans we think is very important. The fourth issue is green. It's the sustainability, carbon neutrality China committed in 2060. Pollution is a big issue in China, and China consumes a lot of coal, as everybody understands, and emit a lot of CO2 into the climate, which is not sustainable. And the green become ever important for China's people's living standards, people's health, and people's need, because they want to have a more green environment and clear and high quality air and water and as well. And also it's become ever more important international challenge as well. We all want to live in a much more greener and a clear world together. This is a huge challenge because today, 70% of China energy consumption still come from coal. If you think about it, China will reduce the coal consumption from 70% component today to 0 2060. It's a huge challenge. It's a huge structure change, but it's a huge opportunity for investments and for efficiency improvements. The green mean a few things. The first issue is energy transformation. So we will gradually reduce, not from the emission side, but really from the coal side, reduce the per unit GDP energy consumption and the per unit GDP CO2 emission. In that sense, we'll gradually reduce the coal. We try to increase non-fuel and energy share into the whole energy share up to 20%, which is also very ambitious target we try to reach and try to get. Hydrogen power generation still a main source. We found hydrogen still a big source for the clean energy. So the next challenge is how can we build a grill, the high voltage grill, to transform the power from most west and southwest to east. And solar, windmill become the new resource for energy. Then the challenge is how can we grill the smart, decentralized grill to transmit the power to the city and the household who need the power. Nuclear power, back to the table. It will be another new issue for the clean energy. So energy transformation, I think, is a big issue. There's a lot of investments, obviously, a lot of structure change in energy consumptions. And I think about, we target in 2030, 40% of the Chinese cars produced every year will be electricity cars. There will be huge structure change in auto sector. The second in energy issue, in green issue, is energy efficiency. The energy efficiency is a very broad concept, from steel mill to cement factory, to building, all those buildings, to vehicles, and everything, the refrigerators, everything involving energy efficiency, which is technology advancing. I think that energy efficiency will provide a huge opportunity for China in the next 5 years or to next 40, 50 years on for the investments and for innovations, and also for the global cooperation as well. So energy efficiency is a big issue. But then another issue is the environment. We want to keep the mountain green, tree. We'll plant more tree, which is a big story China is making. We plant a lot of tree in desert areas. And the fourth area is also get the people have a green behavior to save more energy and spend energy in a more effective way on the personal level. So there are a lot of things as green areas in this plan. The fifth is technology innovation and the digitalization. The COVID-19 pandemic really pushed the tech advanced quite a bit. Because when you cannot move, online business booming. From shopping to food delivery, from Zoom meeting to in-house working, right? All those things happen. People realize technology really can help and play a big role. And we also see, unfortunately, technology become the global competition now. And the technology more and more become the main drive force for economic growth today and for the future as well. So in this 14th five-year plan, we emphasize a lot on technology innovations and also on digitalizations. The few things. The first thing is a build on the technology I call infrastructure or highway, which is 5G, AR, big data, cloud. And the government and companies are working very hard to build these infrastructures and make sure we will leverage on this infrastructure so all the companies, citizens can move into the high-tech age. It usually takes 5 years to complete AG, we call the G tower stations, bases, or whatever the name is, slight difference in across. So China completed 4Gs in 5 years. China today have a roughly 3.52 million 4G base stations, account roughly 51% of global 4G. Previously, we planned to have another 5 years to complete the 5G base stations, but now we try to move things forward. This year, previously we planned to build 600,000 5G base stations. Today, we build 780,000 5G base station already. And in the next year, cover the East Coast and the major cities with 5G, because when you have the networking, the scale is absolutely important. With 5G, with AI, with big data as infrastructure, other side for this is the Internet of Things. This year, China will have IPv6, the net, the number is more than United States. China will build across industry platform, roughly 10. We'll have roughly 100,000 industry app. That means we'll not use our mobile for shopping, for gaming, for news. We use our mobile for all the machines. I bet some companies have all those heavy machines on apps. So any minute you know where this machines, how this works, what the efficiency, the safety, the energy consumption, all those things. And in the near future, the machine can work together without human coordination. So building the infrastructure is the first most important stage, most important things. We hope we started this year, hope next year more or less we've done the big chunk and extend to the 2022. Hopefully we'll be able to have a scale impact. Then on this, we'll do the work on the research side and help all those science tech companies working to support this infrastructure, and then encourage all the industry leverage on this infrastructure to digitalize their own industry. Digitalization moving very fast. I visited quite a few companies, and I found this, assembling line used to have 100 people. Today, it's all gone few. One example, I just visit Media. Media is white electronic companies in Guangdong, right? In the air conditioning assembling line, it used to have 100 people, and the human cost only account 10 RMB, one air conditioner, which is really amazing things when I thought this. So the massive, the digitalization, it will follow when the infrastructure is there, which is more or less like in 1993, you also have information highway bill, which build the GPS, build the internet, and help and facilitate the US internet company industry boom in the next 10, 20 years. So with this technology, with the innovations, and also with these highways buildings, we expect to see China can move into a more tech and war. Everything's about the data, right? Today, China, as every ordinary people, everyone every month use the 9 GB and data per month. That's the data today. But in OECD, average is 6 GB. China still in the 50% high. We estimate in 2030, 10 years later, every Chinese will have 100 GB usage of the data. On OECD at that time, roughly have a 50, so still 2 times. And on IoT, China today roughly link 1 billion things end of this year. In 10 years horizons, China probably will link 10 billion things together. Compared with OECD, it's roughly around, once again, 5 billion. So try to link everything together, build infrastructure, so let market work, let company working together, leverage on this infrastructure, digitalize the economy, making the efficiency, prove, and pushing for the productivity growth, which is also the one big strategy. So those are the 5 points I was I think it's a major features in this 5-year plan. Quality growth, human-centric, and also dual circulation strategy, green, and technology, and the digitalization. So the third area is more on opening issues and working with the whole world to improve the global governance to have the shared prosperities. When China working on its own domestic 5-year plan, China also think about how can China working with the whole world together in the next 5 years and next 50 years. There are also 3 big category things. The first issues, and China will continue to open up, and we will call the high standards opening up. Since President Xi Jinping announced the financial openness in 2018 board meeting, I think there's so many financial companies in China, the JP Morgan is in, Citi is in, Ray Dalio's Bridgewater is in, S&P is in, Reading Company is in, and the Pepper is in. So now they own 100% of their company operate in Chinese market, like local financial institutes. So continue to open, I think is more important. China extend free trade zone from 1 to 4, from 4 to 21 now today, and import exhibitions at Beijing's service exhibition show China will continue open to the whole world for an import and also for the global cooperation. The second issues, RCEP, I think is a big deal because it link whole Asia together. We don't want anything to underestimate the important and potential impact for this deal for the whole country, included in the agreements for the whole region and for the whole world. This is the first time there's such a big dynamic group of countries, economies has the same standard, can work together. I think they will really promote the big trade capital flows. In Asia, trade within the region trade account more than 61% already. Capital flow account, trade account of 51%, capital flow account of 61% already. But with RCEP, we can see the regional integration will increase trade, capital, technology, human, and exchange will increase dramatically. China also say China is considering seriously about the CPTPP, which will move China's open standards into another high level. Another big deal currently is under negotiation is investments agreements with Europe. If we can get this thing done end of this year, even slipped to sometime next year, that will be a big deal because this is not only investment deal. This is a deal about the business environments, about the labor standards, about the subsidy policies, the government purchasing policies. It's about whole and the business environment and the fair market competition issues. And it will help China move into another high level of not only openness, but also on the market fundamental issues as well. So I think that those are really a big deals, and we will see they will play very important role on China's opening up on the whole world, whole region, and in the future. The third issues and the One Belt, One Road initiative will continue. But now we'll continue not only emphasize on infrastructure investments, we'll continue to do that on industry, but more on the try to link the policy, link the system, link the standards together. So make things can move freely across border for those more than 60 One Belt, One Road countries in the region. They will change the whole landscape. I think that's important, important issues. Also, the digitalization in these regions emphasize human and cultural exchange, and also becoming very important issue. The fourth issues in these areas, I think China will continue in supply and emphasize. We're working with other countries to pushing for the global economic governance reform and WTO, WHO, further international financial institutes reform, including quarter reform, all other things, and working on the climate change, which is a big issue. And at this particular moment, China committed to working with the whole world on the combating the COVID-19 pandemics as well. And particularly with the vaccine is close to on the table, I think the manufacturing, distribution, subsidizing, financing also become the big issue. And China committed will make Chinese vaccine a global public goods as well. So we'll continue in this 5 years plan, opening up with high standard, high quality opening up, and continue working with the whole world together. So I took a really little bit more my time, a little longer. My apology for that. I guess I'm a little bit too excited, so it take a little longer. So in concluding, I think today, the world is really into a new phase. This COVID-19 really shaped and changed the world quite a bit. China also into a new phase. So this new 5-year plan address the key challenge is facing and help China moving into a much more sustainable and high income and growth path as well. And also China committed in this process to continue to working with the whole world, continue to open up to create a shared prosperity. I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Zhu, for very stimulating talk. And I'm sure we'll have lots of questions from the audience here. So we are going to start the first roundtable discussing for Your Excellency to raise whatever questions you have in mind. A simple rules like this. You all have name badge on your table. If you put up your the name tag like this, staff will come to your place to hand over the mic to you. So Dr. Wang has kindly accepted as the chairman to moderate this session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon again, and also Your Excellencies and all the distinguished guests. I think just now, Ambassador Osma and also Ambassador Mpina have gave a very good talk on the African Free Trade Agreement area. That is actually one of the theme of today. But I think also Dr. Zhu has actually give a very, I'm still thinking it's comprehensive, but very actually very logic and very the rationale behind China's new 14th five-year plan, and also give all the his personal unique analysis, which I think is highly relevant and highly useful for us to have a better understanding of China's 14 years five-year plan. So I think Dr. Zhu is still around, and then we would like to open the floor. So I think we'll for all the excellencies and our diplomatic representatives, if you can put up your tag, and then maybe we'll limit your comments or question to 3 to not more than 5 minutes, and maybe we'll start. We have about 40 minutes for this discussion roundtable. So let's start there. Maybe also you should report your affiliations. I can't see the name. Ambassador of Egypt. Yeah, that's great. Okay, great. I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you very much. To be very honest, I'm very impressed by the presentation that we have heard, and I'm sure that I can speak on behalf of everybody. It's really very full of new ideas. It gave us insights on the interpretation of the 14th five-year plan. However, Dr. Zhu, I have two questions, if you permit me, and very short. The first question is, we understand as you postulated the whole thing, we understand what is going on or what will be going on in the next 5 years. How can we integrate Africa into this? And how can we integrate China into this? That's one question. If you can give us a sort of like a roadmap on how to do this. That's the first question. The second question, I think, would relate to the current tension that is going on. And as we are approaching what people might call a global, or not necessarily a global, but a warfare of a sort of a kind that is going on. How will this affect the five-year plan, affect our relationship with China? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ambassador from Egypt. Also, I noticed say a few words, but so maybe we'll collect 2 or 3 speakers before we get to Dr. Zhu.
Thank you very much. I really was impressed by the presentation of Dr. Zhou, and we have all been really anxious to hear the details of the 14th five-year plan of China. Like my colleague of Egypt, I was wondering how directly the plan will connect to Africa, but I want to believe that in the session where we will be talking about the African Continental Free Trade Area Zone, maybe more light will be thrown into how Africa stands to link up and benefit from this five-year plan of China. I have 2 questions. One, although Doctor has mentioned the issue of pandemic, what plans China has in the area of health, because the outcome of the pandemic is like a force majeure that has woken up people from their slumber about health generally. So what has China got in place about health? And if I may add, also about agriculture. My second question has to do with the funding plan. If you have an ambitious five-year plan, such as the 14th development plan in China, we'll be interested to know the provision, the funding plan as well, so that we will also be guided in our own programs in our individual countries. Thank you very much.
Okay, Dr. Zhu, maybe perhaps.
Thank you, Your Excellencies, for this very excellent questions and comments. On, I think the first issue is how this, we can further improve the China and African countries' cooperation and working together and help each other. I think that's the question from both Ambassador Egypt and Ambassador Nigeria. I think that's the one issue. I think that's it's a very important issue. China pay great attention on the Africa region. I think it's very important. And if you're looking to the economic structure for both sides, in fact, it's very complementary to each other. Africa have huge resource and also labor force, land resource, and the rich agricultures. And I think this is Africa have tons of potentials. It's a huge, right? And when China move into a more digital and higher tech economy, and working with Africa and on those issues, I think it's very, very important. I would say in this particular moments, and set up the digital infrastructure become ever more important. Because today we do more business on digital base, a digital transaction than through the normal ways, right? Because it's so fast and also makes it much easier, reduce the transaction cost, quite a big deal. When China moved into a more digitalized economy and the system, I can see the Chinese company, the big company, also move into the digitalized platform, which actually move very fast. So to working with those companies, a digital platform, a digital infrastructure become ever important. And I think China will be more than happy to work with African countries to working together to build a digital infrastructure. So that means we can all together jump over to the tech futures. I think that's also important. That's also will help to promote the local digital business, SME and the service as well, and improve the international connection for the African countries to the whole world. So I would say this is probably will be a most important thing, as China put a lot of emphasis on the digital infrastructure as well. So for the African countries to build on the digital infrastructure, I think it's also important. The business model behind the whole thing is the business model really changing now. It's really changed. Online has become the main trend, and so we have to think about that. And I think that's the one thing. From Your Excellency Ambassador for each of you, second question is about the political uncertainty, right? Yeah, how does impact on, right? We do see the political uncertainty increase in quite a bit, right? But hopefully, with the new administration in the U.S. move into the White House, the first issue is we hope both sides will reopen dialogue, which is the most important thing. And when both sides open a dialogue, the development will be the key issue. It's become ever clear the world needs the U.S.-China to work together on global development issue. So this is the big issue on both sides, and should and could focus on those issues. And meanwhile, I think, and the China is happy with all the countries, and in the different positions in different areas. I don't think China has all its sort of taboo things work with in some area, but not others because the political things. And we China's principles is more happy working with the whole world, forming the partnerships, and to have the shared prosperity. I think that's really the Chinese culture and the Chinese value and principle as well. But I do hope when the U.S. have a new administration, we'll be able to have more dialogue on the global development issue. I think it's really become urgent issue now, given the pandemic still there, given the whole world is in the recession, given the fiscal condition is deteriorating in many low-income and emerging countries. And I think that's a big issue. China President Xi Jinping made it clear in many, many international occasions, China willing to talk, to work with on those issues. So the third issue on the pandemic issue is a really challenging issue. Although today, if you're looking for the number, it's really scary, right? The whole world affected case increased dramatically. Still, the whole world is still on exponentially increasing path. The peak and the turning point is not there yet. The real concern is the US. The US have a first peak in the March. If you recall how big the pandemic changed the market and changed the unemployment rate in March from 3.5% jump to 17% because the pandemic. But today's level, if you see the March, it's no comparison. The March, in fact, the base is so small with today. I'm the member for Lancet Global Committee Against COVID-19. And so we're very much concerned about the current US situation because we don't see there's an effective policy to contain the COVID-19 at this moment. We're afraid the affected case will increase, the spreading is still there. It can last for some months. So that's a big issue. In fact, in Africa, since still there are cases, but things are better than many people thought before, I have to say, with various different forecastings. Only in the South Africa, there are pretty serious situations, but in many other countries, they manage it quite well. I think there are a few things China laid out. China would like to work with international community, with African countries, particularly the few things. Number one, we need to enhance WHO leading positions. Make sure WTA have the resource, have the capacity, do play the global leading roles to handle those issues in an effective way. We all understand WHO don't have effective sort of administrative mechanism to manage those things. We really need to think about how WHO can reform into the new phase. I think that's the first issue. The second issue, we see the light in the tunnel, which is vaccine. Right? China committed for the Chinese vaccine into global public goods. So I understand that there are a lot of discussions between the China and African countries on the distribution and transportation on the vaccines. But I will say there's still a big challenge because of massive manufacturing vaccines still take time, is number one. Number two, transportation still require special vehicles, technology, because the temperature is a big issue. And the mass vaccinize to the people also require a quite organizational efforts. So I think the good things, the vaccines are there, but we have to understand that it will take some time before we can give everybody a shot. So we can move back to the end of 2019 Christmas time. It's still some time. So in that case, what can we do? I think China also proposed and mentioned many, many times, which is use this opportunity to build the public health infrastructure. I think it's become ever clear. With public health infrastructure, without, it make huge difference. Nobody prepared for this COVID-19, so I have to say, but China really learned lessons from Wuhan. And after the Wuhan lockdown and reopened April 8th, China spent all the efforts to build the public health infrastructure around China, which actually is a very interesting system, which is a tech-based system. It's a tech, medical facilities teams, and also pandemic investigation team play a very important role to understand the spread, the trace back to original source, and become very important role. So with that system, actually, China experienced a few, I call the stress tests, for example, in Beijing, right? You all experienced in June, Beijing had, a few cases, outbreaks, but quickly contained in roughly 1 month. Qingdao, as another case, Shanghai just currently also experienced some case, but still with small cases and manageable. So build a public health infrastructure at this moment, I think is also very important, particularly building a clinic network and building on the pandemic investigation team and building the big data infrastructure also important.
Great, thank you, Dr. Zhu. And so we have a further comments and questions from the roundtable. Yeah, okay, yeah, why not? Yeah.
尊敬的王理事长，也刚才呢听了朱教授的演讲，很振奋，就是确实涉及到“十四五”的规划，还有2035年的远景规划，讲得很精彩，也很丰富，受益匪浅。那我现在呢，我想提个问题啊，因为是
先介绍一下你自己
啊。 对我本人叫庞新兴，是师大时代集团的董事长。今天非常荣幸能有机会参加这个圆桌会。师大现在的主要的市场是在非洲。现在师大呢从2007年开始对非洲投资，那到现在累计投资达到了17亿美元。我们在那边呢，主要是推动整个非洲的广播电视的数字化。 投资建设这样的网络，并参与这个运营。那么现在我提的问题是什么呢？就是中非之间呀，就是包括像我们的企业之间，你看我们在当地，其实收取的基本上都是当地的货币，而我们除了这个在本地啊有不小的这个成本费用的花费啊，因为之外呢，我们还要大量的从中国其实要 采购一部分设备，同时呢，还得有一部分呢，当然也在国际上采购版权等等。那这样有个什么问题呢？就是这个货币啊，我们往往收的本地币，尤其在中国用的是人民币。我就想问一下这个朱教授啊，在这个人民币国际化方面，在非洲现在是怎么一个考虑？其实中非之间的贸易啊，其实越来越紧密了。 规模也越来越大。其实双方之间的贸易，你看，像这企业就这样，没必要把当地货币换成美元或者欧元这种国际货币，到中国我们再换成人民币，反之也是这样一个过程。其实这个人民币国际化，这是一个，尤其在非洲，这是个非常现实的需求。我想这个方面呀，想听听那个朱教授的这个方面的一个解读。好，谢谢。
Yeah, this is a Chinese company asking me a tough question. That's good. The questions, if I can repeat for the people, because he's speaking Chinese, I fortunately also speak in Chinese. Okay. RMB internationalization is a big issue for China and a big issue for the whole world. For China, because obviously, when Chinese economy become big, China want to, and the trade become big issues, China want to use more RMB as a settlements, trading, investments vehicle. I think that's become ever clear, also important. And also it's good for the whole world because more international currency in the world make the international monetary system more stable. That's the reason roughly 5 years ago, RMB joined SDR basket, have roughly 10% market share now. But we'll see today in the real settlements and on the switch, on the reserve levels, RMB only accounted roughly 2.2%, still way lower than SDR weight or the SDR weight to give to RMB, which is more than 10%, right? So there's a huge room for RMB internationalization. I think that's number one. Number two, and this is a clear policy for China to continue to promote RMB internationalization. As I said, it's good for China, good for the whole world. We see in the past years, right, and offshores and IMB trade settlement centers, and become, more and more cases and around the world, and more central bank also take IMB as a reserve now. So, and the more central bank have IMB and the local currency swap lines with Central Bank of China, which is also a good thing and a very important step to promote IMB internationalization. Africa is particularly, I agree with you, with the trade volume increase dramatically, with also for the company like you do a lot of purchasing in China, and you do the investments, you receive the local currency, the exchange rate risk for you is a big issues. I think the key issues, you raised a big issue. The real issues we need to think about in some African countries set up the overseas IMB center. So it can serve a clearance and settlement centers. If we can have that center, given in Africa, and although every country has its own currency, but there are so many free trade zones, so many monetary units, and the money move quite easily and freely. So with those IMB settlement centers, it could make things easier for you in the future to use more IMB and also go for China. So I think that's probably will be a good issue. So we should put on the table for next China-Africa Forum. Yeah, we had a forum in Beijing, in Johannesburg, and the next one is, I don't know where's the next one, but I think that could be a good issue. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have another two questions and or comments. First, we have Excellency from São Tomé and Príncipe. But the lady, maybe then you can speak, and then we have a Nigerian ambassador again.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I want to thank the organizer of this roundtable. You gave us the opportunity to interact on very important issues. I want to thank also the Dr. Zhu Min for the deep comment he made for his 5-year plan. After that, my understanding was more clear in terms of what China hopes in the next 5 years. So now allow me one question. How to manage, how to balance the life quality, the education opportunities, the access of financial resource with digital era, with technology innovation, on terms of the employment. Thank you.
Okay, well, maybe next question as well. The ambassador from Nigeria.
Thank you, Doctor. I was trying to add to what the chairman of Star Times, the question he asked, because he has a lot of operations in my country, Nigeria, and he may be aware that Nigeria and China have signed a currency swap agreement in the sum of $2.5 billion, which is equivalent to 16 billion RMB, for a period of 3 years. So if the chairman of Star Times is not aware, then it is important for him to get the details from the embassy and make use of the facility. And I recommend the same for other African countries to facilitate easy trade between China and African countries. Thank you.
Okay, David Blair, Dr. David Blair, the senior fellow from CCG.
I wanted to follow up by on a point that Dr. Zhu made about the need to increase income growth faster than the rate of growth of GDP. And of course, in my own country, we've had a massive transfer of wealth and income essentially from labor to capital over the last 30 or 40 years. And I wonder what in the 14th five-year plan is designed to prevent that from happening in China, and also how Chinese policies and other policies can help increase the wealth and the opportunities of the poorest people. What kinds of policies in the 14th year plan can facilitate that?
Probably there's enough, Dr. Zhu, for you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. The first the issues from Your Excellency, Lady Ambassador, about the digitalization and the unemployment rate. I think that's a real challenge. I would say digitalization is inevitable. It's everywhere because it bring in the efficiency, bring in the scale, and make things easier, which I call the structural unemployment in the labor market particularly. So the government have a compensation policy, training program, and become ever more important now. This is a real issue in the current time. But I think we probably don't want to be scared about those unemployment issues. If you're looking for the human history, right? In the US, the labor force in the agriculture, if we go back 100 years ago, it's roughly around 60%. Today, it's only 3%. Right? I mean, we still don't have, 30% unemployment rate. So people move to industry. Then from industry, move to service sector. We will see more people move to service sector, create their own company, SME. This is very much in line with digital economy, digital infrastructure now. So we will see the manufacturing, the big company, more digitalized and use less people, but people will leverage on the digital infrastructure, open their own digitalized SME, serve the whole market and the whole system. This case we observe in the Nordic countries. We observe also in some big cities in China as well. It's become trend. But in the process, and both forces important. On one way, the market lead is very important, but also the government support on training, on the compensation, on the guideline, for the future economic market structure, also become very important. But digital can be a big help and a push on education, on healthcare, on public administration as well. Particularly for the region Africa, I think with a big remote area, digital. So once again, go back to my first point, making the digital infrastructure in today is really the catch up, the big step of catch up. If you want to catch up with today's trend, work on the digital infrastructure. Then let people leverage on this infrastructure, start their own business. And I think that's the whole issue. And from the ambassador from Nigeria, I'm sorry to say, yes, I'm aware there's a RMB swap line with Central Bank of Nigeria is $2.5 billion. But I don't think Mr. Peng can tap that credit line. It's two different things. This is very much for central bank, is for the liquidity purpose, and it's not for the commercial transactions. Some way, the central bank can support the local RMB clearance and the settlement system, build the exchange rate market, open market of the local currency and RMB function. I think that will help Mr. Peng's issue on that issue. And with the swap line become a reserve support whole market activity and will bring the confidence to the market. So I think that will help a challenger and also will help central bank manage the exchange rate market in a more effective way. The question about the income growth stronger, faster than GDP growth is a classical issue. It's not easy. It's not easy, yeah. There are a few things. In China, number one, we want to make sure the labor share in the GDP share will keep increasing. This is the most important thing. This is the first primary distribution. And on the second distributions and on the taxation side, on the pension, on the social security, on the Medicare, on all those things, the policy will help the poor low-income group and the rural area. So in that sense, to narrow the income distribution, because the lessons we learned from many international experience, when you're moving from 10,000 to the high income categories, income distribution is a big issue, and it can slow down, even damage your growth and in the future. So this is a very serious issue. But the most important issue is China is a new economy. We started reform 40 years ago. People don't have a lot of wealth in China, right? So it's very different. If you're looking for the UK and from a great grand chart, the 500 years, right? I mean, this is very things. So, but there's still policy room to help the people with more wealth on land, housing, and all the other issues, and make sure people have more wealth, and make sure the financial sector can help them manage people's wealth in a long sustainable way, helps them to get a good return. It's also a big challenge in the next 5 to in the next 50 years as well. But we see this the most important issues. We determined to tackle those issues because it's for the long-term sustainability. Yeah, it's not an easy issue. I agree with you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zhu. We have. I noticed that His Excellency Ambassador from Tanzania is also raised a comment. Please.
Thank you, Professor. Mine is more of a comment than a question. In presentation by Dr. Zhu, he talked about China's strategy of going green. And we know going green strategy means less fossil fuel dependency and more to new energy sources, including biofuel. And lately we are seeing increasing an importation of agro-resources to feed for biofuel production as one of the way to reduce dependence on fossil fuel. Now, this is an opportunity to Africa and our countries in terms of increasing trade of non-resource products, but it's also a challenge or a threat in terms of food security. And this is because productivity is very low in Africa. And there is competing interest now between food feed the stomach and food to produce alternative energy source. So I think in our, Professor mentioned areas of cooperation where we should be in Africa going forward. I think one of the areas we should put emphasis on is on cooperation on increasing productivity in Africa's agriculture, which is the mainstay of our economies. So I strongly recommend this, and this also will add value to our African intercontinental free trade area. We need to trade amongst ourselves, but how can we trade amongst ourselves if we don't have enough? And also another area of cooperation is on value addition. We don't want to be exporting amongst ourselves raw materials. We want to export finished goods because if we don't have capacity to add value to certain products that we have, certainly our neighbor, it won't add value. And this is opportunity for China to invest in Africa, in increasing production, in value addition, and enable to take advantage of this 1.2 billion market that we are all looking forward to benefit from. Thank you.
If I may, I think that's excellent comments. And agro is such big industry in Africa, and you do have advantage because the nature environments, because the richer soil, the lands, the scales. And I see the agriculture have a huge futures for sure, because overall the world population is still increasing and people need more food and high quality food. I think that's the trend, right? And food will become more and more expensive. So also the trend, right? And so this is really a very important industry for Africa. And also, second point, I absolutely agree with you, Ambassador, Your Excellency, and China and Africa should working together, focus on improve the productivity on the agriculture side. Particularly with digitalization, it can help a lot. China, because of historical reason, we have small farmers. We don't have a big farmer because, every family have a very small land, right? This land is so small, it's no comparison with your scale, right? It's so small, little tiny, which is a big bottleneck for productivity growth. Now, start is 14 5-year plan. Now we have a new policy, allow the family to swap their land. So the land can gradually move and combine, become big piece of land. When you have a big piece of land, you can rent all the land to the professional operator, and he can run with a big scale. Then the technology shipping, the digitalization. In my personal experience, I visited some like Xi'an, Shanxi, on those areas. I see how at the very local level, farmers with the government working together, pull the land together, turn the individual, family-based operation into a big farming company, and then translate a sort of original farming to the digitalized modern agriculture. Immediately, the value, the output increased dramatically because they manage the weather, they manage the seeds, they manage the fertilizing and all those pesticides, all those things in such an effective way. So I do see there's a huge potential for Africa per se to improve the productivity in agriculture sector. Also, I see the huge capacity for both China and Africa working together in those areas as well. And technology is a big issue.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Zhu. I think that probably we're running out of time for our section, and well, maybe you have a last question. Okay, please.
Thank you very much for the opportunity given to me to ask this question. I want to first thank Professor Zhu for the brief that he has presented to the group on the 14th five-year plan of China. It has given us the opportunity to see the plan up close and also deepen our understanding on the strategy. In setting the strategic framework and parameters, you discussed three important aspects. My focus is going to be on the third one, which is about the demographic. change or the demographic challenge, which China sees as kind of a drawback. Even though it is mentioned in your brief time and time again that with an aging population, there is a requirement for more services, there is a requirement for more care, and so on and so forth. But we have not really, I have not heard you mention what policies and plans are there to be able to mitigate against the aging population. I understand also that China has got somewhat very interesting immigration policies. Are you looking at reviewing some of those policies to be able to encourage people coming from other parts of the world to live in China, so that the labor aspect or the care aspect and so on and so forth that you are thinking of, could be provided, by that as a way of solving the problem? Thank you very much.
That's a very, very good question. Thank you, Your Excellency. You really touch upon very important and the big issues. The current issues, when the labor force has actually peaked quite a few years ago, and we don't have the same labor supplies, year by year, particularly in the past 5 years, and the robotization really quite a big movements I expect to see in the next 5 to 20 years. Once again, it's a digitalization. Meanwhile, I will see more Chinese, labor-intensive company will move out of China. Currently, a lot in Vietnam, in Thailand, in Cambodia, even in Laos, the global forming the new global supply chain. I see in that area, the China and Africa also can work together quite a bit, because China has a huge labor-intensive industry, manufacturing, and they will gradually to move the upper value chain and gradually to move out of China as well. So I can see this is one an opportunity both China and Africa region can work together. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zhu, and Your Excellencies and all the distinguished diplomatic representatives. And so this actually, I think we're going to conclude our first section of the roundtable discussion. We had a very good opening remarks, and also we had Dr. Zhu gave us a very good presentation on the China's 40 years, 5 years plan. As a matter of fact, I think in the China's long-range plan in 2035, China plans to double its GDP by 15 years' time. And if you really counting down on that, it represents a 4.7% GDP growth for the next 15 years. So that's enormous opportunities I think China presented to the world, to Africa as well. And also that Africa is such a young continent. We have a 1.2, 1.3 billion people, and it projected to be at 2 billion with the foreseeable future. And now we have the largest free trade agreement reached among all the 55 African countries. It's such a great opportunity that China's 14 years, 5 years plan and our African free trade area with ASEP, with CPTPP, with many other trade schemes that is happening, presented a huge opportunity to reboot the multilateralism and globalization. So I think that we are having such an excellent roundtable is a manifestation of such a great effort. So I want to thank Ambassador Osma, Ambassador Mempo, and also particularly Dr. Zhu for giving this excellent first roundtable. And I also want to thank all of you, Your Excellencies, and our diplomatic representative here for attending this first one. So we're having another second one roundtable. So we can expect all of you. And let's also, after this section, we hope to have a roundtable representative, have a group photo together. And then we're going to have a tea break. We're going to continue to the next roundtable. But let's Before we leave, let's give another round of applause for our speakers today.
Thank you, Dr. Wan, and thank you all your excellencies. This is a live stream session. For the Chinese the channel, we have total 200,000 people online, and the English channel we have total 60,000. So anticipate to see more questions and discussing in the second half. Now would like to request your excellency, diplomats, and come to join us at the front to take a group photo. Thank you.